getting tested, so we don't need an entire full bag. I think for me it would be the fact that I no longer trust any of my putters.
Okay.
I believe my irons should be maybe lofted down because my path has transformed a lot.
Lie angle wise or loft wise?
Lie
angle wise. Cool.
But I don't know if it's tool or whether it's skill.
Yeah, okay.
And that's part of where, at what point do I go get new set or do I get better?
I think the irony with lie angles, and you'll see it in a second, is most people will deliver the club almost the same way in terms of lie angles.
Yes.
But their impact position changes across the face,
Yes.
and that's where they lose their efficiency.
This was gonna say, yeah.
All hands on deck.
We are in the promised land.
And the cool thing with TaylorMade is to sit face balanced or square. My shoes club in the bag, it's often the one that's missed. I'm very confused by it, to be honest. There's so many people coming in for driver.
Yeah.
Is it expensive versus an expensive driver? Given you use it all the time.
And I would, if there's anything I'd spend money on, is to get the putter right.
Yeah.
There's no two bits about it. You know, that's
Especially when you start taking stats.
Yeah.
Or when you start taking stats, it'll tell you a lot. I think everyone's just looking for distance off the tee. Everyone wants to hit it further, but in this case, does everyone want to hole more putts? And that's sort of where we're at right now.
I guess it's the question of where do you think ego is important? I score lower or I hit further?
Well, this is the thing. It's always like Joe blogs, hits his driver 300. I want to hit my driver 320. He swings at the same speed as me. Why is he hitting it further? They're the sort of parameters, but no one talks about that with the putter. It's like, oh, Kevin holes all these putts and I don't hole these putts. No one really talks about it that way. But the one thing that's different and the one thing that no one considers, to use it every hole. If we were to judge it on a range session, guys will be on the putting pretty much 70, 80% of the time. They might be in a bunker here and there, then they get on the range. Everyone sees the range videos and McIlroy hitting a million drivers before he tees off. He's been on the putting green for an hour and a half. For some reason, the television crews never show them on the green because a lot of people see putting as boring. I actually think it's quite boring to practice it, but at the end of the day, if I'm holing more putts and I'm practicing over and over and over, and I've got the putter to match the swing. A lot of them know they're going to be smoked by their playing partner. Like you look at the way some of the Masters groups worked out, like Bernard Langer was 40 to 80 metres shorter than DeChambeau on that first day, or Zalatoris, sorry.
But he's not really going to care about that, is he?
No, because he's electric at the other end. So this is where it comes back to the reason Bernard Langer was shot 4 under in 2 days, was he can putt like an absolute boss. Probably one of the best putters on the Champions Tour.
Stenson was playing, and he's clearly one of the best ball strikers.
Yep.
But the time that he spent on the putting green, before his round, after his round, practice days, he was on the green a lot more than he was on the driving range.
Spider's the #1 putter on tour, and why you can use it across all different types of strokes as well. But most everyday golfers is the one that they miss. You notice when you're out on the course, you can sometimes bin those ones from like 15 feet, but as soon as you get within 6 feet, so you'll see it in a second when I review some of these numbers, that it's there's something working with you, and there's something working against you. You just can't realise you just don't realise it's happening.
You can see for me, because it's got my irons in there, that instantly with a putter, and I know this is a simple concept, but the dispersion of the putter is smaller because the stroke is easier.
Juno's our blade. So that's the first one you tried. Spider X Navy was the first Spider we tried, which is Spider X Navy single bend. It's the last one. So what we're basically looking at here is whether you feel like the stroke's different or not, path to the golf ball is actually different. One of these is going to be more efficient than the other by a fair bit. We hit the ball in the up, which is good. We want to create topspin. When we hit it blunt or hit down on it, it starts to skip and skid, and that for a lot of people could be them getting into golf. They sort of hit it like a hockey stick.
Yeah.
You want to be rising, and you're on the right path, which is good. I think tour average is around 2-3 up. So we're working on the up, which is good.
I'm 1.35 at max up.
So they're basically bottoming out and rising as they hit the ball. If you watch them really closely, Tiger's a good example. If you watch it really closely, the club is essentially There's loft exposed to the ball. Every putter has loft. A lot of people think putters are flat. Just us going a little bit further. Now, for some reason, just the way that we deliver the Juno, at our impact loft, we actually create loft. But with the other putters, we actually de-loft them. Right. That can be a hand thing, that can be all sorts of things. But without us changing the stroke, and this is us fitting to that, we actually adjust the loft of the putter to get the loft back to the person that's swinging it. Does that make sense? In an ideal world, we probably want this back to at least 2 degrees. Try and get you almost feeling like you're a little bit more up. Most of our putters have 3 degrees of loft, 3.5, but we de-loft at about a degree and a half. And that could be the difference of like, speed's probably a good example.
Press.
Really hands forward, gets to the ball, squares it off, but the putter itself, if you looked at it in heaps of detail, probably has a little bit more loft than your Jason Days or your Rorys. We match the putter, once again, match the putter to the stroke. De-lofting's fine. That forward press actually keeps people in the stroke. Sometimes it locks the lead wrist, all that sort of stuff. So the next part for us, if we play a 35-inch putter, which I haven't locked over just yet. Yeah. The club's delivered toe up, which suggests that the lie angle is too upright, particularly with these two putters. Our impact position is slightly out of the toe. We want the putter to be flat, so in this case we'd flatten the putter off so we're flusher with the ground. We never touch the ground, but we want the putter to sit squarer. So your putter's going to be, I actually play upright, I think I'm the only one because I stand like, and DeChambeau's putter would be like bolt upright. But what we're seeing here is we just manipulate the putter to here. I think we can go about 2.5 to 3 degrees. That's about as far as we'd ever push it. All in all, it looks pretty solid from that end. This is where it gets really important. This is why point to point gives us the best idea of what's actually going on. So if you look really closely with these two numbers, alignment's pretty key as well. Face it address, face it address, face it address. So all we want to do first off is tick off the one that lines up the squarest, which in this case is Spider X Navy. Single bend actually addresses squarest, and it had the most visual sight line on it, which you would have seen, that big white band. Might be something in that as well. That's delivered squarest, but the trouble with that one is at impact, it's delivered closed. That will pronounce or even make the hook even worse, so that little pull that you've got. Juno's addressed open, but the impact is a little squarer. So in an ideal world, although we weren't as efficient with the Juno, the neck shape of the Juno allows the putter to be squarer from start to finish. When we go back to the single bend, although we were pretty efficient with our address position, our impact position causes all sorts of grief. You get 10 holes in, you start opening the face, and you generally putt worse. So impact to setup doesn't match up. It's actually just, you're gonna be more and more closed. So I don't mind seeing 0.8 degrees open on average. I don't like seeing closed. So all of a sudden that dictates a particular neck style or toe hang style that would match the putting stroke. Does that make sense?
You're going to try to combine a lot of the positives into one putter.
And the cool thing with TaylorMade now is you've got like heaps of options. Like you're not stuck. You used to just be, oh, you're a blade guy, you just have to play blade. Now in theory you can play the blade with a different neck shape. And that's why you'll see guys cross over. That's why you see McIlroy, who played a blade forever, into a spider, because the spider can now react and be open to closed like the blade can. So outside of that, and we haven't even looked at path, you're actually slightly outside in, so there's a bit of a figure eight sort of pattern here. But the one thing that remains consistent is that we've got a putter style to match the stroke. Here's where we started, single bend. The bend in the putter there, which is covered in tape, which we'll show you in a second, allows the putter to sit face balanced or square. In this case, this is the most left biased a putter can be. Does that make sense? Correct, there's no weight in the toe. So you take the putter back, in your case, you set it slightly square, and I think that's a visual thing. The cue or the true path there allows you to set it square, but at impact, it's sharp. So you're going to miss most of these putts to the left, and it's going to pronounce that little pull that you've got. This is 0.8 degrees toe down. There's a little bit there. That's for the guy that the single bend probably works for, but he just needs a little bit more release, or it allows the putter to be open. Now this is where Dan's putter is, which is probably why you might have got on with it. 30 degrees toe down. This allows you to swing the same stroke, but because there's more weight in the toe, we're effectively looking at a fade bias putter. It allows people to release the putter a little bit more. It's harder to drag across the body because you've got weight in a particular spot. That's where we were before. We're getting further and further towards the toe down style. And what this is allowing you to do, and I can grip it at about 50% grip tension, the putter wants to stay open. Very hard to hit the ball left. The only thing for you to look at with the toe impact is releasing as it should. But if we're dragging it across the body, and that's in this case the reason why I'd be going longer, feel like we're a little bit more away from it, we're not going to be jammed up and being over the top of it, which is probably going to allow you just to be a little bit more upright, a little bit, well, not stiffer, but a little bit more rigid, and just let the shoulders do the work. That one, because the neck shape is different, sits even further. And if you look at Phil, he's probably the best example. He actually plays a putter that sits almost 90 degrees, and his putting stroke is around the body. If he was to play a single bend putter, which is what we had earlier, he would hit it left all day. So now that we've worked out that we need to go flatter, we need to add a little bit of loft, now we work out which putter style matches this up, and we've probably got 4 or 5 options that sit in this vein. And it's not just blades. You can tell really quickly though, even from our end. Now this is going to be a little short, we don't carry everything every leg, but TaylorMade's now gone over 15 years making an insert. We haven't made a putter without an insert. Big thing for us here is obviously we're hitting up on it, which is good. All these grooves in the face are angled 45 degrees upwards, and we can create 500 to 800 more revs of topspin. Stand there, I barely hung on to that.
So for
you need to trust it'll grab the dimples.
Is to just let the face do its work.
Correct.
So the more and more I practice, what I'm really trying to do is learn to let the face do more work.
Let it release. So I'm gripping this.
Might not be in.
Hold more putts. Exactly. So that's the reason you'll see your McRoys, that's the reason you'll see your DJs. We get golfers booking in for full bags, but they don't end up even trying to putter.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Most used club in the bag by a million miles, and generally the one that causes the most issues in terms of dropping shots. If you change putter, you get fitted for a putter, any brand, how many putts would you pull in a round? Not a lot. Drop that, handicap drops. We're still, and we get more efficiency off the tee, change up the irons.
So we have a thing we call value golf. So we've got putting, chipping, pitching, irons, fairway woods, driver. Where would you rank putting in the scale of all of them? Yeah, one being highest, call it, 6 being lowest.
1 by a million miles.
Followed by
wedges.
2.
Yep.
You're the man.
Driver, it depends. If you're really struggling with driver, you don't hit fairways.
Yeah.
Driver can sort of sit in the middle there. But I would see putter, wedges. Have a look next time you play. How many times do you use a putter or a wedge on every hole? We agree on the same thing.
We have very similar values.
Yeah.
Identical values.
If you ask any tour pro, I think they'd agree with me a lot. Like the driver.
A number of putts you'd have around. How many putts do you think you should be aiming for?
Depends on the handicap, but I think for a lot of people that bogey golf, they'd probably be expecting to walk off with 2s.
How many putts would you
good
make?
Question.
Average, guesstimate.
I'd probably sit in the early 30s, early to mid 30s, it depends. I'm quite
on a good day,
prolific with 3 putts. Probably a 7-7. It is probably a 7-7. This is strong lofted, and you de-lofted it enough, so you probably dress closed, and it's going to pronounce that little pull that you've got. Cool. So we'll just stand there. I barely hung on to that. So you need to trust it'll grab.